Hey everybody, welcome to
What?
Podcast. I'm Alston.
I'm Becca.
I'm Aubriana.
And I'm Jason. Today we're talking about fears. Not fierce, fears.
No one's burped
Wait till
yet.
you have your...
Yeah.
That's so cute, Jason.
No, I've just been farting.
Ew!
That's why he's facing his butt towards me.
That's going in the episode, not the bloopers, in the actual episode. He's gonna like his pants right in front of you. Here you go.
That's happened before.
Ew!
Well, I mean, he
I
was
was
sick.
in the hospital.
I know, you told me about the diaper story. My number one fear is really ridiculous, but it's birds. They're disgusting. They're horrible.
Have you been pooped on by a bird?
I have actually.
Me too.
Me
Wait,
when
where
I
did
was
the
little.
fear come from?
Oh, I'll tell you. So,
Who's
my
gonna tell me?
my first and only girlfriend when I was 13, I was at, shout out Lydia, I love you, but I was at her house and they had a pet bird and they let the little motherfucker out and it literally like chased me, flying at me into the goddamn bathroom. I had to lock myself in the bathroom.
That is scary.
Cute. Ever since then, I'm not a fan. And I hate fish. Like, live ones that are disgusting and flop all around. And this is crazy. It only happens to me. I was tanning, and a seagull flew over me with a fish in its mouth and dropped it right next to me. You don't even know how
It's like your two worst nightmares.
exactly.
Run!
I screamed so loud and
Wait.
booked it.
That's wild.
No, it was disgusting. It was the worst day of my life.
You know, is it bad of me that I'm kind of sad it didn't fall on you?
Yeah,
Off.
no. Have you been pooped on by a bird?
I don't think so. I feel like that's something I would remember.
Yeah, you
Wait,
would.
what's your story of being pooped on?
I was just like, when I was younger, like riding bikes around town and like a pigeon or whatever just pooped on my shoulder.
I've been pooped on twice.
What?
One time I was out camping and I was walking and someone was like, "You have poop on your shoulder," and I'm like, "No, I don't," because I didn't even know. And I literally a bird pooped and it was on my shoulder, just like
Ew.
yours. And then another time I was walking to my friend's house on the south side of Chicago and we're walking under this underpass and I'm like, go like this, and it literally hit my hand, and it was I was like, I think I need to wash my hands right now, and
And
it
it
was
smells
another
so
2
bad.
blocks to her house, and it was disgusting.
No, birds are evil.
I don't know why I thought it wouldn't smell as bad as it does, but it just smells like Me and my ex were at a festival, and we were by the water, and it was before I transitioned, so I, had a sports bra on, I, took off my shirt, and we were going swimming, and I thought she, flung, sand or, something, I don't know. I couldn't place it. I was like, what did you throw at me? And I looked at my shoulder, and it was just seagull at me. And it smells so bad, and they got right on the strap.
Of course.
Birds. Them.
My biggest fear growing up was spiders. And that was only accentuated in my childhood because my stepdad had a thing with killing them and then chasing me around the house with them. And eventually I would end up in a corner crying. My ex did that to me once, actually. And, yeah. I don't know why I'm so afraid. I'm afraid to the point where if I see one, I'll kill them sometimes now because, my kids are more afraid of them. And if it's a daddy longleg, it kind of lives rent-free in my house. We had a batch of daddy longlegs in my bathroom that my kids named.
Yeah.
Then I was sweeping in there and I accidentally swept up their web and killed them all. My kids were sad. But big, hairy, gross spiders,
Ooh.
I can't do. One time there was one on our wall and I literally wouldn't sit on the couch. And I called my husband and I was like, you gotta come home and kill this spider. And he did. He came home from work and killed the spider for me.
I've always had to kill them myself because I live by myself, so I'm not too scared of them. But they're still because they're spiders.
And a lot of the times they run at you so fast. I feel the same as you. I used to be a lot more afraid, but then when I lived on my own in Chicago for a while, I was living in a basement apartment. I knew that was gonna happen. I saw it sliding.
I didn't know it was gonna fall in glass.
When I was living in a basement apartment and I had to kill them myself too. And then now I have to kill them also.
And when I lived with my parents, when I was in the basement, like, I had to
See?
kill them all the time then, too, so...
Yeah.
I got really big ones a couple times, though.
Ooh, they're huge up here sometimes. I killed one in our old house we were renting that was so big. It came running at us when we were cooking in the kitchen, and it was literally probably this big. And our dog Nala tried to eat it because she'll eat spiders and stuff. She grew up with cats, so she thinks she's a cat. But I didn't want her to go at it because it was so big, and I hit it. I was cooking, and I had a spatula, and I hit it with it, and it barely crushed it. It started going up the cabinets, and I had to like stab it with the spatula till it died, and I literally had to like sweep it up because it was so huge. Because most of the time you kill a spider, like you have a fly swatter, it'll just smush it. This one was like, it was a body. Like I killed a creature.
Do we have poisonous ones up here or no?
We have wolf. No.
I don't
Brown
know.
recluses up here.
Yeah, brown recluses are really poisonous.
I actually got bit by a spider in my sleep one time, and I have a scar from it. There was a hole in my leg.
Really?
Yeah, I
Do
think
you remember
most.
when I got bit as a kid? No, when I was a kid, this was where my fear stemmed from, but a later experience exasperated it. But when I was a kid, it was when the green and yellow like striped plaid couch. Do you remember that couch?
Yeah.
When it was in the dining room, not where like the couch is now, but
Oh, yeah,
it used to be like against the side window. I was sitting there, and randomly, this will come back into play. There's a pair of scissors on the couch, and I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I screamed because a spider bit me. And Mom thought that I like jumped on the scissors, and then she saw the spider and killed it, and like she kept it just in case I had. But you could literally see the two holes from where it bit me in my leg.
Oh.
So terrible.
I think that's the worst thing too when you're a child and you get like bit or stung. It hurts so bad because you've never experienced anything like that in your whole life, and it's by like a scary looking creature.
And then my mom didn't help by like freaking the out.
Yeah.
The wolf spiders are the ones that aren't poisonous.
I think
That's
so.
like the big giant ones we have up here.
Yeah,
the
they're
fuzzy
just
ones.
scary.
And we have brown recluses.
Then there was a later experience where we were kayaking with Sierra and Nick.
Are you talking about downstate?
This was my first time kayaking, and for whatever reason, we went down this narrow river.
That was just the way to get to the lake where they
Right,
picked us
it was
up.
just like, it was not a great experience if that was the first time you've ever kayaked.
Yeah.
And at one point, Sierra got stuck under a tree, and I had to hit her out, but then I got stuck under a tree. And then later down the river, I was trying to stay inside, so I went to go push off this tree branch that was kind of hanging halfway across the river. And before my brain could even register that there was hundreds, if not thousands, of tiny baby spiders on this tree branch, I had already pushed off of it, and my hand was literally there for like a second, maybe two max, and it was black from my fingers to like midway up my arm
Yeah.
from
Like
baby
giving me
spiders.
shivers right now.
I literally flipped my kayak and just like went under the water.
I would have too.
Another one of my bigger fears, like as a kid, was swimming in the lake and getting nibbled on by fish.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Fish are disgusting.
When we were downstate too, it was me and Sierra with our cousin, and we were paddle boating in the middle of this small lake. And like where we're from, we have a big freshwater lake. Like you can see what you're swimming with.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you're not gonna like run into a fish that you didn't know was there unless you're just really not paying attention.
Yeah.
But downstate in this like man-made lake, there was a bunch of fish, and our paddle boat had a hole in it. So me and Sierra had to jump out. We had like life jackets and stuff. There were fish biting our toes.
Oh my goodness.
Ugh. I'm pretty sure we went to that like the beach of that
That makes
lake.
me feel itchy.
Probably because you guys came down. So like me and Sierra
Mhm.
went down for a month, and then you guys
Right.
came down for like a week or something.
Yeah, because I
Wow.
remember going there, and you would just be standing in the water, and there was like every like 30 seconds or so, a fish was running into your legs.
I just picture them around my feet right now.
Yeah.
It's so unsettling.
I hate swimming in like murky water.
Oh.
Okay, question for y'all about How do you feel about the like pedicure where you put your feet in
No,
water
no.
with the fish?
I
And it
hate the
eats-
feeling of like being
No.
tickled, and I feel like that's what it would feel.
Is it like those leech thingies?
Well,
No, they're just
No.
little tiny fish.
They just eat the dead skin.
Yeah, they're just
They're like
it's
little
like little
minnows.
tiny fish, yeah, and they just go to your feet and just like eat the skin off.
No, thank you.
Who,
I'm good.
who thinks
I
of
don't-
that?
it's-
Somebody was probably in there and
Well,
then was
I
like,
think-
"Oh wow, my feet are very soft."
I was gonna say I think it's
Like-
something from literally like an Asian country. Like I'm pretty sure it started somewhere.
It was
in,
probably
like,
just someone went swimming and the fish were
it's
eating their.
the certain type
feet.
of fish.
I hate fish. I like fishing, and I'll like deal with the fish, but not. I don't want fish to touch me when I'm not aware that they're like near me.
See, even like when I'm fishing, I'm very much like I'll catch the fish. Danny takes it off the hook, and I'll hold it for a picture.
Oh, ew.
And then I'm like, I don't want to touch it anymore.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It sucks too because when certain fish like a walleye, their top fin is spiky.
Yeah.
So if you don't hold it right, you'll get like poked, and that hurts.
Oh,
And
I
then
didn't.
like certain like fish have like when we go fishing in Green Bay, you catch a lot of catfish,
Cat-
and those have
Ugh.
stingers.
Go away. I'll fart on you.
See, he's a fart head.
I'll fart right now on your head.
You guys. Oh my gosh, if only Anna was capable of understanding how many people are on the internet. Because you guys would eat her up. She's so funny.
So one time, I was in her old house, and I was in the basement smoking with her husband,
It was an unfinished basement. Gross, wet.
and Danny, he always pointed out this spider in the window whenever we would go down there, and he was always just like, "Hey Bean, you see her?" And then we would just be smoking, and then one day we start going up the stairs, and instead of, well, we start walking the stairs, and instead of going up, he just stops there, but he trapped me in between the garbage and the basement steps, right by the spider, and, like, I kid you not, the spider was, like, this big, and, like, I literally started crying, and then he finally let me go once he realized I was that freaked out, and I didn't talk to him for the rest of the time. I just I just sat there and waited to go home.
I don't like how you're sitting like that because you're facing away from me.
Well, how about I'll cut Jason off too?
Yeah, there we go.
I did have this very, very scary experience last night at work. So we work in this factory, and it used to be a train station. I don't know who or what this spirit was, but I literally was just sitting trying to take a nice little poo at work.
The best way to take a poo is to get paid.
And
What is that saying? My boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I poop on company time.
Love.
but yeah, I was in the bathroom, and mind you, it was only me, my wife, and one other person at work. So it was like kind of sketch already, but I just hear some like jingling, and I look up at the lock, and it literally was barely locked, like it was about to like come unlocked, and like.
Oh, I got cold.
Isn't that
it was
crazy?
So creepy. I like instantly texted Becca, and I was like, "Babe, I've never wiped my ass so fast.
That's
Maybe a
so wild.
spirit went through you.
I've never wiped my ass so fast."
For real.
I was like, I gotta get the out
Yeah,
of here.
it was crazy because I was telling my coworker, because we were working
Our
in the
other
same
coworker,
room,
yeah.
and he goes, "I really hope it's not the new building," and it is. So if you're watching this, it's the new
I
building.
texted him.
Oh, you did? I
Yeah.
forgot. Which, yeah, but I've heard of other
Oh.
creepy stuff happening at work too, but that's like the most recent I've heard from anybody, and
It
you
was
literally witnessed
so-
So
it.
it was like someone trying to open.
Yeah.
Like they were unlocking his door.
Ew.
Yeah. The fact that you heard the jingling and, like, because obviously when you go in a stall, like, you lock it. Like, you don't just go, like, part way. Like, you lock it all the way. Spiders were a bigger fear of mine. I think my biggest fear genuinely is probably planes, and not because of what is happening recently.
Doesn't help.
That doesn't help. But number one, being a bigger person and flying sucks because the seats are really small and you have to ask for a seatbelt extender most of the time. And if you have to ask for a seatbelt extender, you can't sit in the row, like the emergency exit rows, which I didn't know that either. I don't like taking off. I don't like landing. I don't like, I get, it's just anxiety ridden is how I feel. I will say the couple times I did fly, I was not medicated, so I didn't have like I wish I had my Wellbutrin because maybe that would have helped. I also get motion sickness and that sucks, but it's just so terrifying to me to think like you're stuck in a tube and if you crash, like that's really it. I know people say, like, again, I don't know if the statistic is real or like accurate with what's happening recently with plane crashes. But they say like cars are like not as safe as traveling as a plane. But like I would rather be in charge of my own vehicle than being in a tube that could crash.
Falling from a sky scares the
Like
out of me.
how are they doing those statistics? Because there's how many more cars
Versus,
than there are planes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's less likely a plane will crash because there's less planes. And the probability of dying in a car accident is less likely than dying in a plane crash.
Yeah, especially, and like the thought of like, I mean, I've never flown like over the ocean. I've never crossed the pond, as they like to say. But that terrifies me. I definitely don't think I don't even like to stand up on a plane to pee. It's just that's full anxiety ridden too, because if I'm flying alone, then I might be sitting next to somebody that I don't know, and then that's awkward because I don't want someone to touch me. I don't like when people touch me anyway, but then it's like they literally can't help it because the seats are small. So I would rather just drive my comfortable car and get in the destination. Like I will say flying is nice to, like, I went from Chicago to LA in 4 hours instead of it being like 30 hours or however long it would be. That's the one positive, but the dangers of it are just, it's too scary for me.
I've never been in a plane.
I've only been when I was 13.
I did last year for like the first time. Not technically the first time, but the first time I was 2,
Oh, did you?
so I don't count that.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't remember it,
Yeah.
right. You
I
know.
saw a post because of everything that's happened with planes recently where it was like, bring back clapping when your plane lands.
Genuinely. This is our ASMR.
Are you asleep yet?
So I think my other like biggest fear is, this is literally part of the reason it took me forever to get a dog, is the commitment of, well, number one, it's a dog, like, so that is a big commitment, like, because if I adopt an animal, like, I'm not bringing it back to the shelter or the person I got it from, or that animal is with me until the day that it passes or I pass or whatever happens. But the thought of like having to choose like when it's time to like put your dog down, or like just knowing the fact that they only live like 13-14 years max was so funny.
I don't know.
I'm like,
laughing at
I'm like, dogs dying is funny.
story.
No, it's okay. I just look over and you're like,
I don't laugh at dogs dying.
He doesn't
I
like
just don't
dogs.
like
He probably
them.
does
I'm
laugh.
not laughing.
but all I have to say is Jason is a good person because our dogs love him.
My
He
dogs
is
too, and
so
he
annoying.
cannot stand them.
And I don't like it.
Right.
But they like him.
Yeah.
Where Jason goes, all the dogs go.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, Cindy always just be doing laps when you're in the back.
But yeah, the thought, like, I know dogs have a short life anyway, but having to literally think about making that decision and, like, well, number one, I will be a big mess when I have to.
What is happening?
Now Jason has the giggles.
Ow.
Oh my.
But I mean, you're talking about dogs dying and I'm laughing. But
What did I end on?
something about your dogs dying.
It's not that serious, you don't have to cry.
Your fans are gonna be worried. So like, and I will be there in the room if, like, with the vet, if we have to put our animals down. But like, it's just such a sad thought. Like, I am very emotional. I cry about everything. Oh my god.
Jesus.
But I am a very emotional person, so I cry a lot. I forgot Nala's gotcha day last year, and it was like 30 minutes before midnight, and I look at him because I'm looking at my memories on like Facebook or Snapchat, and I'm like, I forgot her gotcha day. Cried for like an hour. He's like, she won't know if we celebrate tomorrow. Like, she doesn't even know what day it is. I was like, I feel so emotionally connected. Gotcha day is the day that you get your
adoption
pet.
day.
Yeah, it's your adoption day, or when you like receive it from, if you go to like somebody who had puppies or kittens. So it's different. Like we celebrate their gotcha day, like the day they came into our lives, and also their birthdays. Like, we don't have like big parties or anything, but we give them treats and chewies,
and
toys.
Potatoes gotcha day is the day after my birthday.
Yeah, because he was his birthday present. Yeah. So that's always thinking of having to put my animals down is so sad. Nala, on her birthday last year, I started crying because I'm like, she's 4, she's turning 5 this year, and animals only live so long, and I can't. Oh, I'm gonna be gone from work for like a whole week when one of our animals pass away, because it's just so sad, and that's like probably one of my biggest fears, is having to sit there and make a decision. Our dogs just went to the vet for their yearly, and I always am afraid, because they do blood tests and everything. We keep our dogs vaccinated. They're fully up to date with everything. But I'm like, there's going to be something wrong with their blood. There's going to be something. They're going to have like heartworm. It's always just a fear. And I feel like it's similar because there are babies. So I'm always just terrified of, you're always worried that you don't know something's going on, especially because dogs can't talk to you and tell you how they feel if they're in pain. And if they're in pain, it's usually like they've been in pain for a second. And that sucks too.
I've never had like a connection the way I have with like our dogs, so like it's also like a very scary thought for me.
My biggest fear, and it's kind of like relative to hers, like her dogs are her family, where like my kids, like my biggest fear is f***ing my kids up, to be honest. Like, I'm terrified of like something happening to my kids, and that used to be a bigger fear before I was a little bit medicated. One of my biggest fears is sending terrible people into society. Like, every decision I make when it comes to my children, I'm like, is this the right decision? Is this going to turn them into someone awful? Like, am I doing the right thing? And I genuinely, like, my kids are so good. I have the best kids.
They are great.
And, I mean, I think that's because of me and my husband. Like, I take full credit for how good my kids are. My biggest fear is, like, so I have, like, medically complex children. I have a type 1 diabetic. I have an asthmatic kid. But then on top of all of that, right now they're easy. I mean, being a parent is never easy, but, like, in regards to, like, making the right decisions, it's easy. It's easy to lead them through life because they're 8 and under. Mm-hmm. And they're not asking these big questions like, can I date this boy? Or can I go to this party? Or, you know, can I do this, that, and the third? Like, they're home all the time. They're safe at home. But then I just think, like, the way we were raised, like, we weren't allowed to do a lot, so we did a lot. You know what I mean? Like, behind the scenes that my mom didn't know about. And I worry, like, are my kids going to be like that? Are they going to get themselves in trouble? And then it's like, I make a decision about them hanging out with a certain person. Is that one decision gonna lead them to a life of drug addiction or alcoholism or, like,
a dangerous situation?
Yeah. And you don't think about that when you have kids. Like, it's not your first thought. You're like, I just want a baby. Like, I want kids. I want to be a mom. You don't think about, like, every decision you make literally impacts another human's life, which is going to impact another human's life or multiple. And, like, every decision I make as a parent is going to shape these kids into the adults that they become. And my biggest fear is f***ing it up. Aside from them just not being good people, which I don't think will happen, but aside from being afraid of them not being good people, I'm also afraid of them hating me. So then I'm like, am I going to do something that makes them hate me? Or not want to be around me, or not want to bring their kids around me, or introduce me to their partners.
Are they gonna keep secrets from you, go party, or not tell you? And that's so dangerous.
Not feel safe to, like, come out if they're queer.
Right, not feel safe to tell you if something happens to them.
Right. Like,
or, like, if they do go out and party, like, are they too afraid to call and tell you, like, for a ride? Like, I can only imagine, like, I wouldn't even, I'd have to be more medicated. I'd have to, because I wouldn't be able to sleep having to think of all the
I
possibilities.
Have very similar fears, and that's why I don't have kids.
I will say
So
for
it's
me,
like,
like, having those fears, though, one of the things that, like, I can combat them with is surrounding myself with people that I know my kids are also safe with.
Yeah.
Like you guys, like, I know when they're teenagers and they're out partying, like, that's what relieves me a little bit is, like, if they don't, for whatever reason, want to call me, which I will always do my best to make sure they know they have the option to call me. But if for whatever reason they're too scared to call me, they can call him. They can call her. They can call him. They can call, you know, my husband's brother, my brother-in-law. Like, they can call my dad probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's still like I don't know. Being a parent is so scary. Because, like, you don't understand the responsibility you're taking on until that human's here. And then you're worried every day that they're going to get hurt or something's going to happen. Like, when my daughter got diagnosed with diabetes, that was probably one of the most tragic days in my parenting life thus far. Because you don't think about that. Like, when she's a newborn, I'm not like, oh, you're going to have diabetes one day. Like, no, I'm not thinking about that. And then all of a sudden it happens and you're like, holy shit, what do I do?
And it's like, you can't really be afraid because then your kids are going to be afraid because they feed off of you. They're learning from you. So it's like the way you're going to react to it is how they're going to react to it. So it's like you have to put on a tough exterior, act like you're not afraid or you know exactly what you're doing. And medicine's not scary and pokes aren't scary. Like, how do you explain to a 2-year-old that, or 3, how, I think 4-year-old, but even that's so young, a 4-year-old. Okay, every week or so, every day, you have to poke you with a needle. Like, most people don't even, I know adults that are older than me that literally will not go get shots at the doctor because they're so afraid of needles. Right.
See, that's the thing is, like, being a parent is a lot of, like, hiding in the bathroom to cry. Like, I remember when she first got diagnosed, I spent a lot of time crying, but it's one of those things where, like, you can't openly tell everybody, hey, like, I'm sad, because then everyone's like, well, it's not happening to you. But it might as freaking well be, because those children are my entire being.
Yeah.
Like, something happens to them, it happens to me too. And obviously I know it's not the same, but, like, the feelings and the fear and the pain that you feel when your kid is going through that stuff is, I mean, it's indescribable. Like, there's nothing to compare it to. But I just want my kids to grow up to be good humans, like me and their dad, which I think they have a good start in life, having the people around them that they do. But it still doesn't mean that they won't grow up to be rebellious or, you know, we're a family of, we have drug addicts, we have alcoholics, we have, you name it.
Well, and it's not even just that, it's like the influence, like school, like who knows who they're gonna hang out with.
Like, I'm in charge of who I allow her to hang out with until she's a certain age, and it's like, how do I know?
And even when they're like a certain age, like, you hear stories all the time. Like, I always would never understand why my parents never wanted me to hang out with somebody or stay the night where they don't know the parents or they don't know where is it, where am I going? And now that I'm an adult, I'm like, my parents are just keeping me safe. But I was a teenager, hormone fueled, angry. Like, I want to go with my friends. Like, I don't care if you don't know them, but it's like that decision was to keep me safe.
That's something that, like, I experience now as a mom, is like, my kids will ask to go to certain kids' houses and I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. And they feel like it's a direct attack on them, like you're punishing them, and in reality you're just trying to keep them safe. So then you have to watch your kid's heart be broken while also reminding yourself you're doing this for their own good.
Right, it's for safety.
We had siblings that were assaulted at friends' houses growing up.
And I was a teenager dating a grown-ass man without anyone knowing.
Right. And I know that's your whole goal, is to make sure that they feel safe enough to tell you everything. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we've just talked about it, shared it on Facebook. We see this. It's not like a cookie cutter. You can't just be like, okay, my kid, this one is going to be just like this, and this one's going to be like that, and this is going to be like that. Like, you have no control. It's like all you can do is hopefully influence them to trust you and know that you're not going to want them, you want them to be safe. They're not going to get in trouble for telling you things. Like, yeah, you might be upset or like disappointed or angry, but it's not like at them. It just could be the situation or like whatever happened to them you might be upset with. Yeah. But again, it comes down to they think they're in trouble. Because I remember as a kid, I was afraid to tell my parents certain things. Like, they were very against a lot of stuff too, and that's why we're smoking cigarettes in the park at 16. You know what I mean? You do things like that to rebel, but I do feel as though, and maybe I'm biased because we hang out and I'm
Your
family.
dad gonna be like, so you were smoking cigarettes at 16?
Probably. But I know, I think I told him that before. Because I'm 33. Like, I'm pretty honest with him.
Now he's finally finding out about the seances.
Right, that's the only thing. Yeah, it's just hi dad. I went over to their house the other day and he's just like, so you were doing seances? And I'm just like, but that's something where it's like, you hide certain things because I don't want to get in trouble, but this is something I'm interested or I want to have fun. And I don't want to be told you're not allowed to go over to your friend's house when I love my friends and they were safe. Maybe we didn't do things that are considered safe, but it was still a safe environment. I will say I feel as though we're pretty lucky. We had very safe friends growing up and households to go to. We were always fed. We were always like warm. We always had fun. We didn't have cell phones and stuff growing up, so like we didn't have as much entertainment. We had a lot of video games and computers and stuff like that once we got older, but trying to like entertain yourself without, and like thinking about it now, it is crazy. Like that's where our like imagination comes from. But now everybody's influenced by social media and all this other stuff. I would be so terrified to be a parent. Like I give you so many props and understand your fears. I can only imagine you go on there, like think of the beauty standards in the 90s versus now of models and low-rise jeans and all this. It's like we used to see it on TV or magazines, and now they're getting that all the time. They're seeing influence of, I've seen kids doing facial routines at like 8 years old.
I know, what the heck?
Yeah.
But then I think about too, like other parents.
Not that that's a bad thing,
Like,
it's just different.
Me and
That's
Danny
all.
are super protective over our kids, and other parents are not. And it's like, how do I know they're being watched the same at this other person's house as they are at my house?
Yeah.
Like, I think about when they have cars, and it's like, what if they get in an accident, or try to drink and drive, or, like, I think my biggest fear would be losing one of my kids. That, I don't know how it would survive that. But then just, again, like, I just want them to be good people.
And remember, crack is whack.
So if you're a parent out there and you're afraid of how your kids are going to grow up or who they're going to be, just raise them as a good person. Have standards of a good person.
Just try to get your kids to trust you.
Yeah,
I think is the
for
biggest
sure.
thing.
Don't punish when they're coming to you with something that they're scared to tell you. Don't punish them for it. It's like, as a parent, you're wrong sometimes. You don't always do the best for your kids. You have faults. You fail sometimes. But we have this concept. A lot of us were raised with this concept that kids are never right. And kids don't have any authority to want an explanation or want an apology. And that's just f***ed up to think that way. Because kids are human beings. And the way you treat them is how they'll treat other people. If you treat them like humans who deserve respect and deserve sympathy and deserve apologies, they will treat other humans like that.
And I think it is important. I think parents need to understand it's okay to apologize to your kids if you make a mistake.
Yeah.
Like admitting to your child that you're wrong and apologizing for a situation and being calm about it, even if you weren't calm about it beforehand. I think just change and actually having a conversation. Like, kids are kids, but they're learning. Like you said, they're constantly learning from you. So it's like, if you're showing them, okay, maybe I was a little bit too, upset, you can still process your feelings and come back to the situation and have a good outcome.
All right. I think that's
Wrap this up.
enough about fears.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to the next topic. We're going to talk a little bit about politics. I know you may be cringing, but it has to be done. So, clearly by our backdrop and just who we are, we've introduced ourselves, talked a little bit about who we are and all of that. We are active Democrats, liberals.
We're not Republicans or MAGA.
Yeah, we're not MAGA, for sure. I think my biggest reason for the way I vote is I have 4 daughters who deserve to have all the rights that my grandparents fought for. And I don't believe that those are safe under the current administration. So I guess that's kind of my motivation to vote the way I vote.
I'm gay.
That's not funny.
It's very valid.
And he's after my rights for sucking
Marriage.
other men's Okay.
So we have a congressman in Michigan that's trying to get gay marriage overturned, which is tragic for a lot of people.
Scary times.
Yeah, and my access to gender affirming care is at stake. I take testosterone weekly, and like that's kind of scary to be at risk.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's very effective to my mental health.
I'm pretty sure, isn't that with PrEP too?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I take that, so...
Yeah, I sometimes don't think people realize, like, okay, you want to, even if you're against, like, gay marriage, or you want to be against, you don't fully understand somebody who is queer, or what they identify as, fine, but why take away our rights? Like, most of the stuff, like, your testosterone or your PrEP is to keep you healthy. Mm-hmm. It's not to hurt anybody else. It's to make sure that you're safe and to make sure that you're keeping other people safe, whether that means sexually or mental health wise. Like, that's for you too. And maybe somebody doesn't understand that, but why take that away? Like, I don't understand all religions, but that doesn't mean I think it shouldn't exist.
And, like, another thing with the PrEP thing is, like, if they take that away or whatever, obviously there's going to be a spike in HIV kind of stuff, and you can guarantee they're going to be like, oh, look, gay people are so sick, they're spreading their HIV, when, you know, PrEP is, you know, helping to prevent that.
Yeah.
And they'll blame us, but
Right, that's
it's their...
like
it's what they did.
Because, again, it's just a safety measure. And I don't understand how people are villainized for wanting to stay safe. And, like,
right.
Maybe that people who are, like, oh, so against it, that's their mindset. Like, we want to be safe. But why take... I will never understand why taking somebody else's rights away is is making someone believe they're going to have more rights then.
What was also funny is, like, the same people that are taking it away are also the same people that are secretly hooking up with these gay guys that are going to be the ones spreading it, too.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's where, like, I mean, I didn't grow up obviously we didn't grow up in the 70s or 80s or anything, but I've heard stories of when the HIV outbreak was terrible back in the day. Like, there was literal examples of men who were cheating and then bring it home to their wives, and that can get spread to, like, full families, kids.
And if PrEP is taken away, that could happen again.
Yeah. And it's not, I'm not saying this is like a scare tactic either. Right. It's just like, it's reality.
A possibility. Like,
people have to be aware of what's going on and how it's going to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. If you don't like gay people, don't be gay. If you don't like trans people, don't be trans. If you don't like women who get abortions, don't get one. Like, it's not for you to decide what other people can do. Mm-hmm. If you don't like it, don't do it. And I don't like church, so I don't go.
It has no effect on their life, but they want to make it affect their life.
But another thing that's happening is they're trying to not allow you to vote if your name doesn't match your birth certificate. And, like, people think, oh, good, trans people can't vote. But that affects all married women that may have taken their husband's last name.
And what a privileged thought to say, well, just go get a passport. Do you know how expensive passports are?
I looked into getting one so I could leave the country.
Also,
and those are expensive.
Yeah.
They're denying trans people passports, too.
Yep. Everyone's got to make a big deal about everything.
There are going to be a lot of people that see this video that don't agree with us, and that's totally fine.
Just don't attack us.
It's really not fine to not agree that every human deserves human rights, but we're not going to stop you from watching. You guys don't have, we're not going to force you to watch. Mm-hmm. But it's also important as creators, and maybe we're not large-scale creators, but as people trying to throw some influence into the world, to be very open and vocal about our beliefs and about who we support and what we'll do to, like, back those people that we support. Mm-hmm. So again, if you don't care for this episode, don't watch this episode, but
if you don't like it, go fuck yourself.
And at the end of the day, we're a safe place for everybody.
Unless you don't agree that we deserve rights.
Yeah.
Right.
At some point, like, and that's another thing that really irritates me about this whole conversation is a lot of people say, can't we just agree to disagree? And in some aspects, sure. But in others, if you're telling me that he doesn't deserve to be who he is, I don't deserve to have bodily autonomy, he doesn't deserve to be gay, she doesn't deserve to be married to him, I can't agree with you, and I can't agree to disagree with you, because you're actively telling me and all of us that we don't deserve the right to exist as who we are.
And I think sometimes people don't realize how these things can directly affect people, even small scale. If they make that pass where you have to vote with your birth certificate matching, I won't be able to vote because I took your last name. Mm-hmm. So my birth certificate right now does not match my ID, my social security card, anything. So his vote, we get one vote per household then.
Right, and then it's going to affect anybody who may have moved out of state that can't get access to the birth certificate.
Right, if it got lost.
This is where my skill as a procrastinator comes in handy. I've been married for almost 3 years and have yet to change my last name.
Yeah, his name change was expensive.
It was like $500 overall.
And it was about a 6-month process.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Yeah, you have to get fingerprinted and you have to be in the newspaper for 3 weeks. It was like, this person is changing their name to this person.
So if anybody has any legal whatever contact,
right,
you got to put the courthouse on there and what judge is taking it.
But it's like anybody who reads the paper now knows my dead name.
Yeah.
And I will say it was really tiny.
It was tiny. I'm so grateful though my parents watched for it and saved us the newspaper. This is something I also don't think people realize, but we went through this process and they had newer people in the courthouse office, and this person was you could tell they weren't okay with why we were changing his name, is how I felt, is the vibe I felt from both the people in the office. So it took us longer because we didn't get all the information we needed. My mom saved the newspaper that had the clipping of the name change, and that is the only reason we got the court date that day, because the person never told me. I had to so you also have to pay, it's $60 to put that in the newspaper, and then you also, I didn't know I was supposed to send the court a copy of it, that we put it in the newspaper. So the judge thought we didn't ever put it in there, so we almost didn't have our court that day, but we had the physical copy, so he let us have it. But it's we go and do this stuff the way that you're supposed to. You go to the courthouse, you do the paperwork, we're paying money to do this, and just because someone doesn't fully agree or are uncomfortable or however you would like to say, they tried to it would have sabotaged it, would have taken us even longer. We would have had to pay another $60 to put it in the newspaper, wait 3 more weeks, and even then, after you get a certain paperwork, you have to get fingerprinted, you send that downstate, and they have to go through and do a full background check, make sure you're not trying to change your name to get out of anything, pretty much. And you only have a certain time period from when that is approved to have your court date. So certain things, if it doesn't happen, you'll have to restart the whole process.
That's fucking stupid.
And it's it's really stupid.
Yeah, even the judge, I didn't talk to him much, and I was just let's get this over, because I hate things. Mm-hmm. I hate people.
Social situations.
My friend, who changed his name, who is a little more sociable than I am, was having a conversation with the judge, and the judge was saying he's working on trying to eliminate the newspaper aspect because he thinks it's not cool that people have
it's dehumanizing.
It is. That's what I was thinking.
Isn't there another way that can't they background check your...
Literally.
Well, why do we pay to send in we have to pay to get fingerprinted, then you pay to send it down there for them to fully do a background check. Why are we putting it in the newspaper?
Literally.
That's wild.
If you have, because when you do your fingerprint background check, if you have any felonies or anything, it will show up, because if you go to jail, you get fingerprinted.
Yeah.
And also, that was a fun thing. He got fingerprinted and they gave us the card, and I almost sent it in. When I was sliding it in the envelope, the entire back was empty, and when I looked it up, you have to fill out the back. No one ever told us that either.
We live in a small conservative town too.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
And that's something that I wanted to bring up too. When it comes to politics. I try to stay on like world talk when I'm on TikTok because I
Talk. Do Globe Talk.
Oh, Globe Talk. Okay. So it's important. We don't get to see everything. We don't really know what's happening.
Very censored in the States.
Yeah, we've gotten very censored over the years. I think it's happened quickly and we haven't fully noticed. But we live in a very small town, and there are other small towns around us, but we are very much heavily in one direction of how people believe up here. So I see on a lot of posts how they say, why is nobody protesting? Why aren't people getting together and like, fighting this? I sometimes don't know if people realize how big the United States is. It takes us, just from here to Detroit is 12 hours of driving. So it's not easy when across the United States, especially in a lot of like Western states, very small towns, very far and in between, like few and in between. So it's not very easy for everybody to just get together and like fight the government because we're so far spread out.
Like, we don't have a Capitol building close to us. We'd have to drive a day away to get to our Capitol building. In Michigan, they have some good protests, but we're just so isolated.
There was a protest there was a few in the UP the other day, and I never heard about them until I saw
didn't
it.
either.
And that's what makes it hard too, is I'm not sure how we're not in the loop for this kind of thing, but I never saw one thing. And the worst thing is when you do see the news article or whatever about it, it's so disheartening. Like when you look at the comments,
there's hardly any positive comments. It's all just
it's hard. And that's also another reason where this stuff is very personal, and it affects every single one of us in different ways, but it affects all of us. And it makes you want to fight, and you get so angry, but then you're so discouraged because with what money, with what time off, with how, okay, now we have to figure out how are we going to drive a full day? Are we going to have to spend the night? What about the kids? It's not easy.
Here's my biggest beef with like trying to be vocal on social media. Why is it that I can post something and say, hey, I'm worried about this because it affects my child, it affects my husband, it affects me, it affects anybody that I love and care about. And instead of a person who supports Trump coming on and telling me why I shouldn't be worried, they degrade me, they berate me, they call me names, like
they literally bully you.
The party of let's agree to disagree cannot agree to disagree and cannot try to educate. I will do my best to educate people when they come to me and say, why do you feel this way? I will do my best to explain it and say, this is what's happening, this is what I'm seeing. But it's never, well, okay, on the other side, this is what I'm seeing. And it's just, that's even more disheartening because then it's like, I post these things and I know there are people out there who agree with me, but they don't comment. They just like it, move on. Whereas people who disagree are always the ones who are so rageful in the comments. I will say though, I did get a couple comments from somebody who was like, please keep posting this stuff.
Oh, good.
So I was like, oh, that made me feel a little better. Because like for me, like I have a bigger following. I'm not huge, but like I have 34,000 followers on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm up to almost 95 on TikTok. And so I have more of an obligation to explain myself and explain my stance, I guess, and try to educate other people. But I just wish, for the sake of humanity, that we could treat everybody like humans. Even if you voted for Trump, even if you're gung-ho for Trump, even if you agree with every single thing he does, I will never, ever say you don't deserve the things you have.
Yeah.
Because we're all humans.
Yeah.
We all deserve human rights. Nobody is free until all of us are free.
There's this one podcast I listen to, and they're like, see, the difference between us and like people from MAGA is when the shit goes down, we're not gonna be cheering that we were right. We might say like the obligatory "I told you so."
Yeah.
And then we're gonna be like, "Come here, we gotta figure this out."
Yeah. Well, and that too, everyone's like, well, you'll never praise Trump for doing anything right. And it's like, if he genuinely does something that helps us, then good job.
Right.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
I can acknowledge that he's done something good.
But he hasn't been doing anything
No.
good.
I will say I was genuinely worried about doing a political episode, but mainly because I feel as though I'm very open to listening to people. I will listen to both sides. At my job, I have genuinely listened to somebody who was my supervisor tell me that transgender people are mentally ill and they actually don't exist. Like, I've had this stuff, and I can stand here and listen to you and try to understand your side, but I feel as though every time we or anybody who is the woke or liberal try to explain our like what is happening or what we think or how it affects us, it's automatically a lie. And I think that is literally the hardest thing about this is we could source every single thing that we're talking about and genuinely prove how this could affect millions of Americans or children. And that's the thing, I have goosebumps right now thinking about how kids can go to school and like be hungry and people don't care. I wish all my tax dollars could pay for every single kid that's homeless in this country, every veteran. Like, I genuinely wish my tax dollars would go for stuff like that to help the American people. Yes, I want to help all these people. But as soon as you try to explain why we are attacked, well, you're lying, you're listening to fake news, you just are woke and you don't understand.
You're giving handouts.
Yeah. If giving handouts to somebody who has never had a step up in their life is terrible, then I'm a terrible person.
Let me just say, so like as someone who gets handouts from the government, my children are on Medicaid, and thank the Lord I have a type 1 diabetic who costs, her supplies is over $2,000 a month. Now any full-time working people couldn't afford that without giving up something else. So that's like, I got berated by somebody on Facebook for saying, hey, my daughter being on Medicaid is not the problem that our country has. That's not why our country is in $35 trillion in debt. And it's just, I cried about this. I'm not even kidding you. I was driving to Mom's after getting her groceries, and I was crying in the car. Because it's so disheartening to know that there's people out there that don't think my child deserves to be on Medicaid and thinks I should just go work harder. But at the end of the day, I'd have to work multiple jobs. My husband would have to work multiple jobs. I would never see my kids. And it's just very disheartening that... And I think a lot of it is that you guys aren't getting all the information. Like, it drives me nuts. This new bill that just passed the House, the budget bill, includes nothing about no overtime on tips or tax, or no tips.
No tax. Yeah.
No tax on overtime or tips. But it does include the $880 billion tax cut for Medicaid and food stamps and Medicare. And you guys aren't seeing that side of it because these people are telling you that that's what was in the bill. But if you read the bill, it's not in the bill. And it's just like, when I say, hey, I'm scared that my kid's going to lose her health insurance, people will say, well, let us know when she does. Or they'll call me ugly and whatever else. And it's like, man, I'm afraid my child will die.
I'm sorry. It's just like, wow, that's really solving the problem.
No,
right.
For real. But like, I'm
Not
scared.
only might my daughter lose her insurance, but I'm also ugly.
Darn it. No, but it's like, you guys, it's playing with my child's life. Like, I don't think you guys I don't think these people who are telling me I'm wrong understand how serious the situation is.
Right, it's like,
My child dies without her medication. That's it.
But
Right, there's
even-
no other alternative.
No.
you're hoping that that's not what happens. But
Yes,
it's
always.
completely reasonable to feel the way you're feeling. And all of these people are scared of losing necessary things, or their jobs, or their money, or like XYZ. And it's just like, it doesn't freaking matter if it doesn't happen. People are entitled to feel upset and scared and hopeless.
See, and people aren't pro-life, they're pro-birth.
And instead of
Yeah.
telling people who are scared of all of these things that they're wrong, tell them why they shouldn't be scared.
Right.
I think that's what's very frustrating is I've again, mainly at work, like, people tell me these things about bills and they're like, oh, well, they're talking about the cutting the tax on overtime and tips, but then when you hear it doesn't happen, it's like... And I remember telling people when Trump did win the presidency, they were super pumped And they would tell me, you know, oh, he's going to do a really great job. And every single time, I remember telling you this, I tell them, I hope so. Because genuinely, that is how I feel too. Anybody who is running our country, I genuinely hope they are doing the best for all of us.
Have hope.
Everything is so miserable and hateful and, like, against each other. And I don't see it like that. I don't necessarily see us, like, against everybody. It's just, like, you don't listen to how we are feeling. Like what you were saying is like we're entitled to feel scared, we're entitled to be worried. I've watched our rights get stripped away with Roe v. Wade, and a lot of people don't understand, again, that can physically affect me. I have a uterus. My mom had a lot of issues when she was trying to like conceive and have kids, and she actually had cysts on her ovaries, and she ended up having to have a hysterectomy. And I was telling my dad this, I was like, if this passes where like, you know, anti-abortion, like all this type of stuff, technically like getting a hysterectomy before I go through menopause would be abortion care.
And with miscarriages too.
Well, and then there's, you take away abortion, you take away birth control next. And like for me, birth control keeps me alive.
Yeah.
Like without birth control, I lose too much blood every month and I die.
Yeah, you literally have to go get blood transfusions, which blood is always very scarce at the hospital. And again, if you don't have insurance, how are you going to pay for a blood transfusion monthly? This is all the things that like build up in my brain.
It's like a trickle down effect too.
Yeah.
You take one thing away and then watch as the rest go. But there are people out there who are happily watching people's rights get stripped away, not understanding that you take away one person's rights, what's to stop them from taking away your rights?
Right, they're just going to keep taking stuff away because once they start...
And when it happens to them, then they're going to be pissed.
That's exactly how the Holocaust happened. They started taking, like, rights away from the gay people and the trans people.
Which is exactly what's happening right now.
And then it slowly became the black people.
So we're all going to die. I mean, we might.
But, like,
Yeah, I mean,
getting back to the topic of, like, censorship and, like, how we're so censored in the U.S., so many people, like, even, like, us, we didn't know that there's all these other countries protesting and having, like... Rallies saying, never let it happen again, like...
Trying to protest Trump winning.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't feel like getting...
Thanks for watching!
Make sure you like, subscribe, click that notification bell so you're notified every time we post, and share this video with your friends.
This has been What Podcast?
What?